back, and it's just gonna be Vondell in until we go.
Hello, gentle people. Welcome back to another episode of F.L.O.W Presents. You guys asked, so we are delivering a part 2 of women's health, and we have a full panel of women here to talk about women's health. But as always, before we get into that, we are going to talk about what this week made you look at this guy and go, Jesus needs to come quickly. Hello, gentle people. Gentle women. Lovely women. Here we go. All right, so I volunteer myself as first, as usual. And I'm just going to harp on what I said last week because the Derek Jackson saga carried on. And the Lord needs to come quickly because that man was a whole new level of toxicity. He recorded a video with the wife and then reacted to his own video, talking about himself like it was in third person, like it wasn't him in the video. And it's too much. It's just too much for me personally.
Yeah, that was a lot. This week was a lot for that. And I tried my best to avoid it, but it was everywhere. It was a lot this week with that. I had so many thoughts. I'm with you on that. I will share that moment with you. Jesus needs to come quickly. I'll share that with you this week.
For that reason specifically.
Yes.
I too would agree. Mine is centered around that, but less around Derek Jackson and more about how we as women responded to his wife. I was very disappointed, and it was because a lot of people would say, oh, she needs help, mental help, but then they would talk about her appearance. They would talk about the things that she said and she's crazy and all that stuff, and I'm just like we'd be the worst. So Jesus needs to come quickly because I feel like we're very double-sided as women. Sometimes we can be very double-sided about it. On one end, we're like, oh, we get all of this pressure or stress from other people on how to be a woman, but then we like to criticize each other. So yeah, Jesus comes.
Yeah, that was very disappointing for me. All right, does anyone else have a reason why the Lord needs to come fast?
You took the one. I mean that
was the one that everyone just. I was going to say, just like, I can't.
Jesus come quickly because social media in its entirety has exhausted me in 1 week. That's,
honestly,
Kirk Franklin, his son, Derek Jackson, Little Nas video. It was too much. It was too much. Yeah. So when you have a young see, I have young folk in my life, so I'm hip to it all. And so there was a lot. I'm just gonna say, don't go looking for it. Ready. All right, you're not ready. Don't do it today.
All of the problems.
Do not do it today. It is not of the Lord. Okay,
we're men. I'd like to point that out.
And then if anybody who has children that's watching, if your babies who have mercy. So Jesus, come quickly. See, look at Landy. Landy, don't do it.
The problem.
Don't do. You are not ready. Like my 43-year-old brain had to say, why did I just do that to myself? So
self-love is listening to Miss Tony and not searching for that.
But I need to know my kids. I'm only searching because if my kids are with, I need to know. Yeah. So
you need to know.
Y'all don't pay me no mind.
Okay, you need to know.
Yeah.
But you will gasp if you put it on mute and you let it ride. We will know because your face will show everything. So.
Yes.
Okay, so on that note, we're just gonna shuffle on to the main section. Ooh, we gained a person. Sorry. Susan, you're muted.
Thank you. I didn't realize it. Appreciate it. Yeah, so we are back, and unfortunately, this is the last session for our Women's History Month. It has been a blast over the past 3 weeks getting to know all of the panelists. Welcome, Miriam. All of our guests.
How did Jesus come quickly?
Oh, give it a second. Hold on. We are really we're really happy to have everybody back. Our topic today is we're going to be talking about emotional health and the impact of societal expectations on women on emotional health. How does being a woman or the expectations that are placed on us by society impact the way that we feel about each other and the way that we feel and the way that we think about ourselves? So that is going to be the conversation. And as always, it's a no holds barred conversation, which means that we're talking about sex, we're talking about our professional lives. Yes, Miss Fast One. We're talking about our professional lives, what it means for gender roles in the home, as a partner, as a daughter, a sibling, whatever it is, like wherever you've experienced that particular issue, we want to hear. We are going to be sharing our stories today. So before we get started, Miriam, give you 2 seconds to share your.
No, I was just going to joke and say Jesus come quickly because my computer was being mad slow. But anyway.
Yes, technology.
Yeah.
So thanks for sharing that. So I just wanted to kick us off with a pretty, I feel like it's a simple question, but it may not be. But yeah, it may not be. So the question is, who did you learn how to be a woman from? And what did you learn? What did they teach you?
The Princess Diaries.
Say more.
Oh wait, no, there's just a specific scene in the Princess. Well, the Princess Diaries, if you don't know, is just a couple of movies where this lady finds out she's a princess, so they're teaching her how to be a lady in XYZ. It's Julie Andrews who is the queen, and if anyone's gonna teach you how to be a lady, I mean that's like the perfect person. So she teaches her how to sit properly, how to eat, and so yeah, that was honestly though like my first. Seeing that there were like lessons to being a lady per se, or like a proper person, that was probably my first time actually seeing it and being like, oh, so that's what, okay, that makes sense.
So really quick follow-up question, Rondo, what did that look like to you? Like, to be a woman after you saw that?
For that specific thing, it was kind of just like how you carry yourself. my aunt and my cousin are always yelling at me about like my posture and like when you walk in like heels, make sure you're walking properly. Some people you just look at them and you know nobody taught them how to wear heels, and it causes me distress. And clearly the shoes, because the shoes are leaning. So like walking properly, proper posture. My cousin has a saying of just you wear the clothes, don't let the clothes wear you. So like, you know, how you go about life, confidence basically. Just even if you fake it till you make it.
Interesting. Anybody else want to chime in?
I would say my mom and my grandmother. They taught me how to be a woman and what a woman looked like, and so that encompass not just taking care of the family, so you know, but anyone who really that they loved. Like I saw both my mother and my grandmother nurture people through feeding them, and I do the same now. Like I bring people come in my house and I just cook and let's just chill and eat, you know, and just taking care of others who are in need, and you know, and then you know, being a boss at whatever they were doing, if it's work, their business, or anything like that, you know. I kind of learned that from both of those women. Now there are women in the church as well, women in the community that I can say I learned different things from, but how to be a lady, how to carry myself, when to have a purse, and you know, how to match shoes and purse and belt, and you know, all kinds of, you know, like those type of things. You know, I would say my mom and my grandmother.
Yeah.
So if nobody else has any, Felicia, were you gonna say something?
Yeah, I would say the same for me. Which is so funny. The women in my family on both sides, I call them like feminine gangsters, if that makes sense. Like, because I grew up with like, you know, even now my grandmother, she's with the eyelashes. Your hair has to be done and your nails are done. Even in the pandemic, you know, it's like take care of yourself, groom yourself, but you don't want to see that other side of them. So I think I grew up kind of with an unconventional female roles where there was that feminine side of them, but there was that very strong, unconventional alpha female, what we say now, which I don't think that term even existed in my great grandmother's time. You know, I grew up with my great grandmother for 18 years of my life. She always lived with my mom, or they always lived together. She raised my mom. But even for her time, she owned acres of property. She was unfortunately never married, but she had 4 sons. You know, she had a common law husband. So even in those times, I think just the way she carried herself was even unconventional for the times where she worked outside of the home. She took care of her kids and other people's kids. She was a community woman, you know. She would cuss, but she goes to church on Sunday. Like, so I just kind of grew up with that very, like both sides of it, to say what we now hear this term where people are saying alpha female. I guess that's kind of what I saw for me growing up.
So when I thought about this question when Susan sent it to me, and I was like, womanhood. You know, I think for Black women, it's like womanhood with an asterisk, because then it's the Black womanhood. It's totally different. And so my background, very interesting. I'll say this part about womanhood. We all are taught womanhood, and then about the time when we get to 40-ish, we start to figure out what it really is for us. Amazing for the women who are able to figure it out earlier than that. But a lot of women don't come into their womanhood until like 40. But my grandmother was a Southern belle. She met her husband outside. Listen, if my grandmother was alive right now, she would be stressed that my hair is like, that's messy. She was your traditional, AKA pearls. She would say that my ears are naked. You know, but you must be dainty. She'd be upset that I have on red. Like, it's just a whole thing. You don't slurp when you, like right now, I can't sit and slouch. Grandma didn't like you slouch. You don't slurp. We used to call going to grandma's house Hemingway boot camp. Listen, she used to give Vanderbilt a run for their money. So I think when, you know, growing up with that, it starts to, at times, and I know we're going to get there, it can wear on you. And so personally, my idea of womanhood I'll share later, But I think that the best thing that I've learned is that we are taught unintentional and intentionally what womanhood is, and then we have to disrupt and figure out what it is for us.
I would say I learned womanhood from my own mother. I also come from a long line of strong women like Felicia, and I believe Landy had said also, but I learned a lot of what I know from my mom. And also, like Landy said, I had learned a lot from women at my church. There's a woman named Miss Pat that some of you may know that she did a Christian grooming and manners class for Pathfinders, and she let us know what it was as women, how to clean yourselves, how to dress right, how to wear your shoes, how to wear your outfits and things of that nature, and that really helped as well.
So I thank you guys for sharing. I'm going to share something from the chat, and then I'm going to follow up with something else. So Catherine Samuel says, it's so odd to think of myself as a woman, especially because I feel like a teenager and a kid all of my life. And I can identify with that. I can identify with that. And the reason why is because I feel like there were definitely some things growing up that I feel like I wasn't taught.
Say that again.
I feel like there were things that I wasn't taught growing up, and so I found myself trying to play catch up. I noticed that you guys are talking a lot about grooming and talking about sitting up straight and being dainty and wearing makeup and all of this all the time. But I feel like there are other aspects to womanhood that I can't say that I was taught. So I was taught, some of those things too, but I feel like I learned a lot, unfortunately, when I was put in awkward situations about sexuality, about the power of my body, about the way that that as women we're supposed to think or how we're supposed to behave, about confidence, like even the idea of walking into a room with confidence, like what does that really mean? Should I only be confident if I'm wearing makeup? Should I only be confident if I can walk in heels? There's some women who don't like heels. Does that mean you're not a woman?
She's not a woman. They're not a woman.
Yeah. And so I feel like it's just interesting to hear how womanhood has been defined to us. And like Tony said, it's sometimes implicit, sometimes it's explicit expectation. But I feel like, and like I said, we'll move on to that. But I think it's definitely interesting to hear some of the things that are coming out. When the first question I asked, everybody is like, "You're supposed to sit up straight. You're supposed to, do this, do that." But there are other aspects to womanhood. And so my follow-up question is, what are some things that you wish that you were taught?
Everything. Okay, so I'm probably the youngest person on this thing. So whatever womanhood I might be coming into is it I can't even see it yet. It's way off on the horizon. But just at the age I am now, there's a lot of stuff that I've learned via my auntie Pat, Miss Pat that Miriam mentioned earlier. You're gonna hear her mentioned a lot from me. The lot of stuff that she's taught me the last couple of years, and just the internet in general, kind of, even stuff with like, I guess, dressing, bodily hygiene, certain things being normal, and you not knowing because no one ever mentioned it before. Just confidence, learning that everyone's body types are different, like dressing to, things that will flatter you, and not everything's gonna flatter everybody, that kind of stuff. Taking pride in yourself. I don't know, stuff like that, I guess. When I think of it, it's usually like appearance based. The other stuff is more, I don't know, like you being as a person, and it's not necessarily for me related to being a woman per se. That's just you having some home training and knowing how to behave yourself out of doors. But yeah, stuff like that.
I'm gonna push you a bit, Vondell, because even that, like, you know, if you think about it, it's still kind of superficial. So like when you're talking about how to present yourself, right? Like how you're supposed to look and things like that. Are there any areas that you feel like you didn't feel like you were prepared for as a woman? You know, growing into womanhood that you had to learn the hard way. Being
stuff like, I mean, I guess we gonna get right up into the realness real quick.
Let's
Stuff
get
like my period. Of just the only thing I knew about it was in health. We didn't even have health class in 5th grade. They split the boys and the girls up and was like, "Look, you gonna start bleeding at some point," and that was all they told us. I don't know what they told the guys. God bless them. But that's all I knew about it up until it happened to me. And then at that point, everyone was just like, here's a pad, figure it out. And that was it. So like that, like, no, I was not prepared for that. Stuff with like, I don't necessarily think of like the like makeup stuff as part of it, because like I said, I learned most of this womanhood stuff from my Auntie Pat. She doesn't wear makeup. I don't think of it as something that's an automatic type of thing. She doesn't generally wear makeup. So I usually don't wear makeup. If I'm wearing makeup, it's because I just want to be extra. So I just want to go out there and, you know, I'm going to have all my eyelashes out to West wear, but that's not necessarily a built-in part of womanhood per se for me. That's just a whole extra segment.
right.
But stuff with like hygiene, or even just like the logic behind certain hygiene stuff of just
Right.
like, you need to wash this thoroughly, or
Right.
XYZ. You need to make sure your face is washed. Make sure you get up into S. Like, they teach you how to hygiene, but it's just like, you need to do this or you gonna stank. Okay, but dang, like that doesn't instill in a person a pride in themselves and know, okay, well, I'm gonna do this because I want to look XYZ. I want to feel clean. I want to, like, that kind of installation of pride in self.
Right.
That's like something that I was not really taught from the beginning. So I mean, if you knew me from birth to 18, I apologize, because I was just out here looking any old crazy type of way. so
don't apologize.
Yeah, that's
and I'll throw the same question out to everybody else. Do you feel like, or what are some areas of womanhood that you felt like you were thrust into that you wish that somebody had prepared you for?
Learning. Go ahead.
No, you go.
You sure?
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Okay. So you know what? I'll say two things because of what we just did, me and Felicia. Okay. So because it brought one to mind. Learning how to say no with a smile. And commanding my space.
Mm-hmm.
So for instance, you see that dialogue, Felicia, you and I had? Like, oh no. If one of us was a man, and I'm so sorry, men, but it is what it is, because it's happened so many times. And actually, the year before COVID started, pre-COVID, so 2019, right? Right. Okay, before we knew about it, okay? I was on a tour, a personal tour of any time a woman bumped into me or did anything and said sorry, I would stop myself, whether she's black, white, blue, whatever, and say, why did you apologize? And then they were like, well, because I bumped. I said, did you do it on purpose? I said, well, do not apologize. So let's do it again. Bump me and don't apologize. Because, because we're learned in that whole aesthetic thing we just talked about, guys, we learn beauty and patience and quiet. My grandmother used to say, a woman, which I do believe in some things she used to say now, in particular to my marriage, right? She said, you are more powerful in your silence. But the part that she lost me with, and she didn't teach me, but I had to learn, is I am powerful in my silence, but I have to learn how to when to command it, when to be commanding in it, and when to speak up, And so I don't know if anybody's, I'm seeing some nods identifying with that, but yeah, my no, and, I'm here and I have something to say. So, yeah.
I was going to jump in, but I was going to let Felicia do with yours.
Yeah, I was like, I'll
Go ahead.
piggyback off Tony. Thank you. So, I mean, what I was gonna say is, I don't think there's anything that I didn't learn that I probably should have. And I'll say this because so I think what I got from my mom was life skills in a well-rounded manner. And whether it's unique to a woman or just a human being in general, but also I realized that the way how my mother raised me was based on things that she might have lacked, that maybe she didn't get from her mom. And I'm noticing that even when I partake in like women's groups and things like that, there's a lot of older women that have kids and they have grandkids and they're still like learning about womanhood in their 60s, right? So it's like no one taught me this and I just finally got it and I'm like 65. And so I also look at it as someone can't necessarily teach you something that they don't know yet. And I think that's why there's no like right or wrong to what womanhood is. And I think a lot of it are the life skills, like, your emotional health and just even self advocating for for yourself and, learning to say no without being, without people feeling that's aggressive or, things like that, or just even being able to do certain things or may have certain mannerisms or you may not be interested in makeup and without someone saying, oh, well, that's manly or this is a manly trait, where sometimes it's just like an individual, like, not necessarily man or woman. So I would say that my ability to even be open-minded and just even converse in a manner where trying to understand or communicate with people, I think that was something that was big that I learned from my mom in terms of like speaking up for yourself, self-advocating, because I think that's where we learn the most, just even sharing in this space as women. We may correlate with certain things with each other or we might not, but because we all have different experiences. So I would say there's nothing I didn't learn that I think I missed. And then some of this stuff is generational. Like there's something that I can do that my mom would totally disagree with, right? Like, and it could be from something as simple as our hair. I love where we transition to with Black women in our hair because my mom came from that generation. Dreads, you don't wear dreads to work. You don't cut you can't have braids or natural styles. And even that was a conversation, me and my mom used to butt heads on when I was in college, like, don't do this to your hair, or don't, and it wasn't until I was like 30, I finally got comfortable with putting color in my hair, wearing twists, and still knowing I'm professional. So even with that, I could have took my mom's advice and just do what, was normal for her generation. But I kind of like, that's something I can say, like, I love where even women of color, where we've just transitioned with comfortability with our appearance. And, if we don't want to wear makeup, if we want dreads, if we want twists, and if we want a shortcut, and we can still be professional and who we are. So certain things, if I took from my mom's advice, it might have stifled me for maybe who I am, or who I want to be as a woman.
And I was just going to add, in terms of something that I was not taught or I did not learn until much later in life, when I spoke about the things that my mother and my grandmother taught me to understand, and my mom was, quote unquote, a young mother. She had me in her early 20s, and she was still in college. So for me, that's young in terms of knowing who you are, right? So her ability to give me, while she was in that stage of life, probably wasn't what she now, if she were looking back now, would say, I wish I would have given you these things, right? But my grandmother was there, and so she was able to fill some of the gaps as well. But what I noticed in my mother and my grandmother is they served the people around them. They always placed themselves last. So they spent, and the example I saw was, how can I make you comfortable? And so the posture that creates for that. I'm sorry, Siri's doing it again. She did it last week. Did y'all hear that 5 o'clock thing?
Lord, is that you?
What did Siri say?
It don't sound like what I thought you would.
That was me. I'm sorry. But so I saw, the example that I had was, I saw them constantly kind of readjusting and pivoting for other people, right? And not spending the time to teach me that
Mhm.
I have a gift for other people in who I am, as opposed to recreating myself to make other people okay and comfortable. And so the thing that I did not learn until much later in life, I'm 44 now, right? The things that I did not learn until much later in life was to celebrate who I am and the gifts that I have so that I can give them, you know? And so now for my 3 teenage daughters, I'm teaching them that from young, like, discover who you are, take the temperament test, take the personality tests, figure out what makes you tick, what you like, what you don't like, figure out what you are here to do and gift. And in that process, learn you, because that too is important. I didn't get that until much later. That's
But hear you talking. You're how old? You said I'm 43, girl. So you're
I'm
44.
I'm
So
44.
that's a blessing. You're 44, raising teenage girls. You're a full woman who I'm just being, and let me go somewhere technically. When I say full, I mean your brain is fully formed. Like my daughter's 26, and I know she's still crazy. So I look at her like, this brain is still forming, so we're gonna rock with it. So the beauty of it is that they're not done yet.
Yes.
I was gonna say that, something important to remember is that, like, as you are evolving and changing, like, so is your mom.
Yeah.
like kind of like what Felicia said, like, before my mom would have told me something different about how to wear my hair in a professional setting, but now you can wear your hair natural, you can wear it any kind of way. And I think like, I always have to remember that when my mom, like, when I'm talking with my mom, that she is evolving too. There's things that are changing about her. Her ideas are changing as well. And she always reminds me too that she hasn't arrived. Like, she'll say, like, yeah, I might be 50 plus, but girl, like, I feel like I'm still 20. Like, I'm still learning.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's something we have to remember too.
And I was going to say that, but asking this question is not to imply that our parents didn't do a good job with us. Like, that's not what this is at all. It's more like, because the thing is that I don't look at it as only my mom's responsibility to teach me what being a woman looks like. I've gotten examples from different places, from TV, from church people, people in my community. And so like, when I ask the question, it's not to say, oh, so what did you feel like your mom could have done better? Like, that's not the question at all. It's just thinking about, because again, I do believe that it's a generational thing. And there's some things that my mother was not comfortable talking to me about. Like, I can think about sex. That was like a big one. Like, I remember the first time growing up, all I heard was the only one you date is your books. Like, that's the only man you ever have. That's what I grew up learning, and I took it seriously. I was one of those kids who was not like, I was not one of those, I gotta feel first before I hear. You know what I'm saying? And so I remember thinking to myself, okay, I don't want to get in trouble with my parents. I don't want to get pregnant, because that's the next thing they tell you. You have sex, you want to get pregnant. Like, that's all you need to know about that. And so I remember for the longest time, and y'all are gonna laugh at this, Mondale talks about having her period. I remember thinking, like, wondering if I really had a vagina. And the reason was because I didn't know how to put on it, or when I tried putting on the tampon, it wouldn't go up there. And I was like, oh my God, I don't, but I couldn't have those conversations with my mother, or like, even, and again, this is like through no fault of her own. Like, I'm not looking at it like, oh my God, because I feel like my mother taught me what she could teach me, and then also, like, when it came to sex, do y'all know when my mother finally was willing to have the sex talk?
After you got married?
Right?
When you got married.
Oh.
Before that, after I graduated from college, I was like, Mommy, you never had the sex talk. And she was like, okay. Now, mind you, all of us are, like, all of my siblings are, in their, like, spanning from 20s to 30s at this point, right? And my mother is like, all right, I know what I need to do. I need to gather you all in a room, and we need to have the sex talk. I have 2 of my siblings are already married, okay? Before I got married.
Susan, you've never told me this.
that was literally the first time she was willing to have the sex talk with me. And so, you know, like
That's
we
when
talked
she was
about
prepared.
yeah, so we're talking about like the emotional impact of like not knowing certain things.
Yeah.
Like, imagine going into marriage,
Yeah.
being a virgin and experiencing sex for the first time, the second time, the third, like imagine that.
Yeah.
Y'all listen, my mama gave me a book. I was 13 and you know, they were doing sex education. I went to public school. So they did a sex education class, right? And she gave me a book and that was it. And somebody made, I think Susan, you were the one that made the comment about it's not just our parents, our moms that we learn about womanhood. Listen,
Right.
listen, y'all, okay? Two good conversations. So she sent me to the neighbor down the hall who was a little younger because my mom was older having me. She was 33 when she had me. So she was raised by Ben, you know, Hemingway boot camp. So it was too much, you know, you know what I mean? So she gave me the book and sent me down to Michelle. And Michelle, God, I thank God for her. She's like an aunt to me still. She was the one that said, listen, don't be doing this. She was the one. I'm about to tell you all my little hot box stuff. I came to Michelle's house. I was 14 years old. My little boyfriend gave me a hickey.
Oh no!
Alley. Yes, no, I ain't done nothing, but I let him suck my neck. And Michelle said, "What you doing? Let somebody suck your neck, Alley girl." We are not them women. And that, listen, so it's not always your mama. And then my dad, I remember I was 16, 17. I think he had an inkling that I was doing it, okay? And he sat me down and he said, listen, don't be having sex. I said, why? He said, because once you do, you get addicted. I was like, And my father, listen, he had his own issues, but even to this day, my dad will say, you having cramps, baby? Like, he's the one that will like, you know, be familiar with me and say, are you okay? You need some pills. That's so cute. But mama was like, this was not my forte. God knew that he had to put all these other people around you. And I mention that because although all of us seem to have you know, like mothers that try their best, I have to be honest. There's a young lady that Asa and I, we consider our daughter. She's 26. That's what I was talking about. She didn't have a mother like that. So I say that, and I go back to that, Susan, to really speak, because there might be some women on here that really, they're like, what did your mama not do? It's, you know, we don't want to put them on an island.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
There are some girls like that.
Yes.
Mama was not there, and they're learning, like Vondale said. Thank God for YouTube. You know, everything
And romance novels.
What'd you say?
Oh, girl.
Whoa.
Hold on. Ariel.
We did not say 50 Shades, Mama. No, we did not.
I didn't say that.
I cannot.
I wasn't ready.
Look.
You shut me down, Vondale. There it is.
I told you all they talked about sex ed was in school, and then I think because I read so much as a kid, I read out the kids section in the library like that. Like I read out all the good books in the school library, and eventually I just like meandered over to the adult section, and nobody stopped me. So I'm just over here I'm like 11 with my little pile of Harlequin novels, and no one's saying anything to me. And I think at one point I was like 13 or 14, and my dad was like, are you reading Harlequin novels? And I was like, maybe. He's like, you can't read those till you're 15. And I was like, why 15? Why is that the age you pick?
Because that's when you should be able, you're okay for church smut at that point. Come on. That's my
question. Like, was that where you were like, okay, this is where this is okay? But I was like, all right, cool.
So I'm going to read a comment from Facebook that says, also remember those who may have lost their mothers to death at an early age and had to figure out how to navigate womanhood on their own. That's definitely something that needs to that we really have to take into consideration. And I think, in this conversation, we're definitely going to have to talk about, how as women we should mentor each other, because the reality is it is a community. It's not only on my mother or only on my auntie, to teach me what it is to be a woman. It's all of us as a community. Like, we're the ones that are teaching. Even if we're not saying anything to people, it's the way that we present ourselves. It's the way that we talk to the younger generation, or even our peers. How they, because some of us are still saying we're still growing up.
Yeah.
And so it's the way that we communicate with each other. And I'm gonna go to Miriam. We'll start with you for this question that I have. So there is a young lady who spoke about feeling like the pressure of learning womanhood from social media, and talking about how she had self-image issues because everybody on social media was skinny and had that every beauty was defined as Eurocentric. And so my question to you, Miriam, is like, so like, in terms of social media, or in terms of the way that we learn womanhood, what do you think how social media can impact our view of womanhood, and has it ever had any impact on you? Either way, positive or negative.
So I think that social media can definitely have a negative impact on you and your idea of who you are. I think a lot of the times people always put their best. Social media is a highlight reel. They're going to put up the prettiest picture with their makeup looking the best. They might even contour themselves to look a little bit more shapely. Like, that's what people do on social media. And I think that comparing yourself to that will only start to bring a self-hate in you. I myself have had like trouble with being on social media and seeing people looking a certain way, and it's like, oh well, this is not the way it looks like when I look in the mirror. This is not the way it looks like when I'm at home. This is not what it looks like. And so it makes you start picking at yourself. And so sometimes I have like social media fasts where I just turn off everything and I just focus on me and what's going on in my home, the real things that are happening in my everyday life. I think in a lot of ways that, social media pushes Eurocentrism. And I myself, I went to a school with mostly Caucasian students from the time I was in pre-K all the way to the time that I was in high school, to the end of high school. And so it was very hard because you don't see yourself amongst the crowd and people are always picking at you. Like, I remember one day my mom is like pro-Black, like all the time. Like, you are beautiful, your hair is beautiful. Like, and I remember she made me go to school one day with like my hair all picked out, like in a big fro. And here I was going to school with all these white kids and like people are like touching my hair. I was so embarrassed, but I realized that was her trying to tell me like, the way you are naturally is beautiful. And I remember, or I don't quite remember the story, but my mom always tells me the story of when I was in pre-K and a teacher told me that I was Black. And I was like, wait, what? I'm Black? Because I had never been told, like, at 2-3 years old, who knows that they're Black, really? And so I go back home and I tell my mom, I'm like so upset. And she says, the next time your teacher tells you that, tell them that Black doesn't begin to define me. So when I went back to school, that is what I said. And the teacher was like, what? And told my mom. And my mom was like, oh. Like, okay, yeah. But yeah, like it's very hard when social media is telling you one thing and your family's telling you another. And I think like what I was saying, when you evolve, you luckily I have evolved to love myself even more and to love what I look like, to love my skin tone, to love my hair, the way it comes out of my head, to love those things. But I think social media makes it very hard.
Go ahead, Brenda.
Oh, so it's funny. I actually have an opposite story, Miriam, with the hair. My mom quit doing my hair when I was like 11 or 12. She was just like, "Good luck," and I was like, "Cool, thanks." So I had to just learn how to do my hair myself. So there was a period of time where I was either flat ironing my hair, which left me with a host of problems, or I had my sugar mama puffs, or I learned how to do my hair in twists. So I looked like Static Shock. And that was the goal. The goal was to look like Static Shock. But one day, it was some random day that my mom was actually home to see me go off to school. I was in high school. And I started wearing my hair in afros. I would just put my hair in a headband. It was just the easiest thing to do. I'd wet my hair in the morning, comb it out, put on a headband. And she looked at me and she was like, "Wow, you brave." And I was like, "Huh?"
She said, "You're brave."
Yeah. And because for her, that was not something that she would have, like, later on in life, like my mom used to press her hair a lot. She never relaxed it, but she pressed it a lot. And now that, 50 something, she's all on natural. She wears her hair in twists. It's always some kind of curly something. But like when she was working in a professional environment, quote unquote, like an office, her hair was always pressed, So for me to just be going out in an afro, she was like, "Hello." But I said, and to say of like social media, I remember when natural hair became a thing where it was like, yeah, we embracing our curls. And I was like, this is great. I love it 110% because I'm tired of y'all looking at me like I'm out here with my afro crazy. You gonna leave me alone. But it was really funny though, because all these women that had been previously on a creamy crack are now coming to be natural, and they're looking at me who, like, every so often I would press my hair. And I remember going to church one day and this lady was like, "Oh my goodness, you must not relax your hair because you must embrace your curls." And in my head, I'm like, "Ma'am, you was hooked on a creamy crack a week ago. Please leave me alone." But I'm like, my hair was, look, leave my hair alone. My hair is my hair. My curls are still there, XYZ. But it was really funny to see the evolution of like social media. And that is one upside to social media, is because there's also the fact that Miriam was talking about of just like seeing people that look a certain way and like the highlight reel. But I do think an upside to it was like the natural hair movement, and just seeing all these different stuff. And you can learn how to do your hair and make yourself, make your hair look proper and take care of it properly. And I think that's a really cool upside to it. The other, side of it, you might end up being depressed because everybody else seems to always look, on 100. I have learned, because people will be like, "Oh, you're a hater if you don't like to see XYZ." If you see something that bothers you in some capacity, even if it just makes you feel bad about yourself, look, it's your social media. Block them, unfollow them, XYZ. It's your thing. Do whatever is gonna make you feel good about yourself. And remember that like what people are putting on the internet is not what they usually look like. Like I know a lot of people that are Instagram famous, and I'm not saying that they look like they got hit by the F train in real life, but what's on the pictures and what's in real life aren't identical. So like that kind of helps me to remember that, okay, they look like normal people too. Instagram ain't always it. So yeah.
So Felicia, I wanted to pick your brain, because you were talking earlier about how as we get older, we morph. There's a metamorphosis that happens, and we evolve. That's the word I was looking for. We evolve into womanhood. Tony mentioned something earlier that I kind of want to bring out now, that there's a difference between being a woman and then being a Black woman. And so my question is, what does being a Black woman look like to you now?
Look like so, yeah. So as I said, for me, I love what I see in terms, like, now there's different images, don't get me wrong, like there's, even within just being a Black woman, there's different varieties of Black women, right? And everyone's gonna have their own cup of tea. And so you might have the woman that loves her wigs, that's her right. Some people be like, "Listen, I just want a bold cut, I'm gonna wear my 2-strand sweat," like, you know what I mean? So I feel like what I love about Black women is that we do have so much variety. And I think that's where sometimes we can get confused, because even just if you look at your social media, as we were talking, sometimes you see what if you know you like a certain thing all the time and you're following a certain thing, that's what it's going to keep showing you, right? So it's like, if I keep following natural hair pages, I'm going to keep seeing more natural hair pages, right? I might not see, a page with another image. So I think also it's like, what do we gravitate to? What are we looking at? And sometimes unconsciously, what are we looking at to give us those thoughts of, I need to look this way. I need to do even natural hair. That journey is not hard. Sometimes you could look on social media. I'm like, I want my curls to look like this. Why is my curl like, you know what I mean? So it's I love about Black women, or what it means to me, is that the variety of the different shades, different hair textures. And I think even having friends that are of other racial backgrounds, I think other people still don't even understand that about Black women, let alone us as Black women sometimes understanding it. So, there's some people that are not of the Black race that think, we all have the same texture hair. We all have the same type of afro, oh, you didn't perm your hair, but it's straight, oh, how do you put braids in your hair? Like, even at work, you'll be surprised the question. And sometimes it's just, I don't know if it's a fascination. I don't know what it is, but even conversing with women who are not Black, I had a headscarf on in a, like, I just thought, and they're like, oh my God. I'm like, this is my night scarf that I sleep with. And they thought it was like a fashionable thing. And I'm like, well, I wear a scarf so my hair doesn't break off when I'm sleeping. You know what I mean? Like, so it's like, I feel explaining yourself, as a Black woman, I feel like there's sometimes, then there is a need to explain yourself. Sometimes to even other Black women. Susan, you brought up the great example where women were dragging Derek, Mrs. Jackson, his wife. And I'm like, how did this become about her? Like, how did we get on speaking about her image, Black women, when the topic was her husband who cheated? It has nothing to do with what she looked like. So I really, that part of it, I think, as you mentioned earlier, is, as Black women, we do need to be more mindful about rooting for each other and even putting ourselves in someone else's shoes. Like, what are they going through? So there are pluses and minuses in where we are right now, just in the state of Black women. But I love being Black. I love being a woman. And I think even though we try to separate the two, I mean, realistically, when we can say, oh, we're a woman, but at the end of the day, when someone looks at us, they're going to say, like, that's a Black woman. You know what I mean? So sometimes our race does come first, and then we look at, they look at you as a woman. But I think as a society, people do separate Black women even just from other races of women. But I think we are just so unique in many different ways. And I do want to see, just in general, us rooting for each other and a larger scope,
Anybody else want to add?
I'll just add to that, right? Forgive me, but there's a woman, and then there's a Black woman.
Come on.
Okay? So that means that I come with the icing and the cherry on the top. That's what that means. and I don't apologize for it. I love whenever I see my sisters on the street or whatever, that means that you chose to show up today in whatever is unique about you, baby. And they may not get it, but you are here giving it all, and I'm all here for it. So womanhood, yes, we can talk womanhood, but being a Black woman, because of how things are thrown at us, and because of how we have to carry so much, I said, baby, you have shown up, you are here, and let's just be us unapologetically. Let's just be us. And so, womanhood, there's a whole lot that comes with womanhood, but I think the courage that is required behind a Black woman, that is what causes, when I see someone else, that's what causes me to be like, girl, you better wear them shoes, and I don't even know who you are. You know what I'm saying? That's what causes me to say it, you know? And I just love it. I absolutely love it. I celebrate us. Unapologetically, I celebrate us, and I celebrate our men, but I definitely celebrate Black women. I do.
Landy, can I ask you something?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
When you celebrate, I think we kindred spirits. When you celebrate women, right?
Mm-hmm.
Are they? My experience has been they're shocked. So if
Yes.
I stop a woman, I'm like, "Girl, you better go."
Yes.
right? They're shocked.
Yes.
Like, oh, thank you.
Yes.
Why are we so
Why?
shocked?
Let me tell you.
Compliments?
Let me tell you why. It's for the same reason that Black women were going after Jackson's wife, Danae Jackson. For that same reason. For some reason, there are some of us who can find it easy to cut each other down, and it's not a natural thing for us to celebrate each other. Like
Right.
even in the story when they were talking about one of his mistresses is a surgeon, it had women going after her saying, "Oh, she's probably just a surgical tech. She's probably not a surgeon." Like, can we not be a surgeon? You know, can we not do that? You know what I mean? And so I feel like there is this propensity for us to lean. And I think when like people like Tony, you and I, when we walk out and we start saying, "Girl, you better do it," I hope it catches on. Like every time I see, so I'm doing it, and I want you to do it to the next person because it needs to catch on. We need to get up off each other. We deal with enough. We deal with enough. Can we just get up off each other and celebrate one another? But yeah, they're shocked because the natural thing is that, oh, she thinks she about something. She thinks she doing something.
Lord have mercy.
That's kind of where that's been my experience. And even when I've gotten that look from other Black women, I still give them, you know, "Girl, you doing your thing. Whatever it is, I'm gonna find it on you, and I'm gonna tell you that you're doing it."
So I will say that first of all, I love what you said, and you know, going back to that whole situation with Miss Jackson, you know, my confusion was there were a lot of people saying, "Lord, you know, Black women," and I was paying attention to it. I'm looking at these comments, and they're like, you know, making fun of her and criticizing her for staying in this relationship, and you know, X, Y, and Z, and saying she needs help. And then going in on her. And I'm like, what is that doing to her? Like, y'all are saying she needs help. What are your comments doing to help that?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I find that a lot of times we're good at like Landy said, at like criticizing and saying, "Oh, you know, she looks toe up and she this and she that, and she needs help," but we're not lending, like we're not helping. You know, like we're not the ones that are helping. And you know, like the other thing that I am thinking about is like, I remember the first time that a Black woman ever encouraged me. And that was at church. I remember feeling, and I was young, I was probably like 12. And I felt very ostracized at church, you know, for, you know, how like there's drama with the parents, you know, moms and whatever. And so now it trickles down to the kids. And so the kids don't get treated, they get treated like that. And so I dealt with that in some instances. And I remember crying, and I remember this older Black woman pulling me to the side and saying, "Susan, you're resilient." And she was like, "Do you know what that means?" I said, "No." And she says, "It means that that you go through, you know, like things hurt your feelings, things are tough, but you're able to pick yourself up and get back, you know, like you're able to get back up. You can get through anything." And I remember that, like, it happened so long ago, that comment that she made, but I've carried it through almost every situation in my life. Like, no matter how tough a situation gets, I remember I'm resilient because she told me I was resilient, you know? And I think that's what, like, we really have to keep in mind as Black women, the power of our words to each other, you know? It looked like Vonda was going to say something.
So
go ahead, Vonda. Go.
The last thing you just said, Susan, actually tied into what I want to say, because Landy mentioned of just some Black women will like look at you and they'll be like, "Oh, you think you're doing something." I saw something the other day of just, that is something that we are taught from jump, because we'll see it in young black girls when they're like 4. You know, you get the beads in your hair and you so you click, you so cute, nobody can tell you nothing. and then you leave the house, and there's gonna be some random black woman somewhere of, oh, you think you grown, and that's the first time you hear that, and you adopt that mentality of, oh, when I look cute, it's a problem.
Yeah.
And I think that's where that starts, especially with like, and you carry that on through the generations of, you see a young black girl enjoying herself, liking how she looks, she like her beads, she in her little outfit, and your first thing is, oh, you think you grown, oh, you think you cute. Oh, yeah, she thinks she cute. She is cute. Why is that a problem?
Okay, right?
Like, why is that the issue? And then we grow up and we maintain that mentality, and that's where you lead into you seeing other black women out there doing it up, and you're like, oh, you think you bad? Well, she is bad. Why is that a problem? Why are you upset? Do you feel you're not bad? You bad too. We could all be bad together.
Yes.
It's okay.
I'm gonna read something from the chat really quickly, and I love what you said just now, Vondell. Like, there's nothing wrong with me looking like I'm being cute. You know, people like to shame you for that. But Alice, can you pull up Kaylee's comment, her first comment? I can't see it in the chat. Yeah, so she says a lot of us are taught to be better than everyone else because we are black and are women. So it might be some type of defense mechanism when we see someone doing the same. And she calls it internalized misogyny. Or I don't know if that was another comment. But yeah, thank you for sharing that, Kaylee. Miriam, it looked like you were gonna jump in.
No, I was just gonna say, but I saw a comment also of someone saying that about the adultification of Black girls.
That's exactly what it is.
Yes. So I'm just gonna pivot with that.
Yeah.
Yes, I think that is a huge problem. I remember, so as a Kenyan American woman, as you grow and you develop, you end up having a little extra in the front and a little extra in the back. And so I remember being like 10, 11, and 12 and dealing with advances or just looks from men. And when I got to about age 13, 14, 15, I'm like, okay, I don't want this attention. I'm gonna cover myself. So I would start wearing big baggy clothes. And at that time, everybody was wearing big baggy jeans, all the guys and stuff like that. So I started wearing big baggy clothes too, because I didn't want that attention. I was too young to be getting that attention. And I think that that's a huge problem in the Black community, the adultification of Black girls. Yeah.
I had I think it's several. Go ahead, Felicia. No, go.
Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Oh, sorry, my internet was like a little shaking. I know Tony was speaking. Okay, go ahead.
Oh, I thought you were
no, I was going to say the adultification. I was wondering also if, I know as Miriam said, she wore big baggy clothes, and I know sometimes that causes some women to carry an insecurity with them for life sometimes. And I think sometimes the defense mechanism is sometimes from an insecure, place, like as the other comment said, like, you feel that someone else can't be in the same space or same shoes, like, we can all be powerful in the same space. So I think sometimes it does maybe speak to that person's insecurity, when they lash out at other women instead of, because I think there's strength in someone celebrating other women, especially if they're not in a space where they're always there yet. So I think for some women, that strength or that security is not there yet to really celebrate or cheer on other women, even when they're not in that space yet. And I think that adultification could be a part of the issue as well, that, they get these notions from young and it carries out with you into adulthood.
I used to run a girls group for a couple of years. I think it was about 5 to 8 years. I can't remember when we started it, but we would take the girls at about 12, 13 years old, and a lot of them I can say now that some of them are married, some of them are not married, whatever, but they're adults now. And what I find interesting is there are just so many spaces as women, as grown women, all of us here, even you, Pondell. All of us have a space where we can pour into younger women. Yes. Even pouring into older women. That's a whole nother thing. And so like you guys said, but going back to the adultification of kids, Vondell, you said that the young lady, like, you know, you think you're grown, you think you're all this. I find another thing that happens with girls is when somebody says, oh, you think you're all this, then they start to shrink into themselves. And so it's so important for us as women who have had those experiences, that have the, you know, the capacity of having young women in our lives. And I'm not even talking about, you know, it doesn't have to be church. There's a young lady that lives right beside me, you know. Her mama's white, her dad is black, that baby's black. So every time I see her, she's 6 years old. Hi, baby, how you doing? You know, and I'm just trying to give all that I can, you know, and pour into this young woman. I think that's the awesomeness of Black women. We don't have to necessarily be kin folk to be for each other. You know, I can think of experiences being outside, oh Lord, with my crazy mama. And she was a teacher for 35 years, right? And she saw a Black woman having a hard time with their child. She's like, you need some help? Excuse me. You know, I mean,
excuse me.
She's now grown to the point of asking, do you need help? Back in the day, she didn't ask. She would just insert herself. And so, but that is the beauty of Black women. You don't see that with other people. But going back to our girls, do you all agree? Our girls sink into themselves. Landy, you have girls. You have 3 teenage girls. Do you see, you know, how do you deal with that sinking into themselves?
Ooh, let me tell you, because one of my daughters is like Miriam said, come out in here, you come out back here, and we're doing all of this, right? I'm observing her grow from young, like 7 years old, 8 years old, just watching her, right? And I said, there is going to be a day when someone is going to say something to her. So I need to make sure she's ready for that. Right? And so, because what happens is it now turns into a shame of, I need to do all of, you know, but still at the same time, as her mother, be responsible enough to teach her that, yes, this is how you are. You just need to be aware of it. Don't be ashamed of it. Be aware. Okay, so that means that we dress for it, and appropriately so you are not inappropriate in your dress. But understand that if someone says something to you about it, that is their issue, because you already are aware of who you are. And so literally trying to drill that in her head from the age of 10, and now she's about to be 13, you know, trying to drill that so that when the world gives her whatever the world will give her or her sisters, that they know themselves so well enough that they can be able to say, you know what, I know exactly who I am, and I can either agree with you or disagree. But one thing is for sure, if you have an issue with exactly who I am, then you're the one with the issue.
Right. I love it. So we are nearing the end of our time, unfortunately, but Landy actually transitioned us into a really great spot, which is insecurities. And so as we're bringing this conversation to an end, what is one thing that you can that each of us, as we're having this discussion, can tell our young girls about dealing with their insecurities? What advice do we have for them?
This is the connection portion.
No, it's not.
It's not? Why not?
No.
You sure?
No, there's another question for that.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're gonna end on insecurity? That's a part 3.
Right?
Yeah. The question is, what is one piece of advice that you can give a young girl about her insecurities?
Someone gave their insecurity, give it back to them. That's not yours.
Yeah, that's huge, Vondell. That's huge. Recognize when it's not yours and when someone is attempting to deflect. Do not carry someone else's stuff. Know yourself so well that you are aware of, this is me and this is what I have issues with. As you work with that, but don't take anybody else's stuff. You're right on that one, Vondell. Sure.
I would actually say that, like, for me, understanding that you have power and that you're a resource. I think a lot of times as Black women, when we walk into a space, we think of ourselves, we want to shrink ourselves because we don't see that we have value. But if you look at the way that society, even though they talk about us negatively, they imitate us a lot. There's a reason for that. Yeah. And so I think I would tell someone that, you have power. You are a resource. And if anybody is staring at you that hard, it's because they realize that. And so just walk into a room knowing that.
Yep.
I would say this is going to be odd for anyone under 40 to catch, but with purely your insecurities, lean into them. Mm-hmm. The reason why I say lean into them, because either your insecurity is something that's truly yours, or it's something that you learned. And I'm just learning that now. Lean into it. So if you find it, you feel yourself, like, for instance, let's say you kind of want to travel, but you're scared to travel. I'm speaking about myself. I really want to travel, do like something alone. Just travel. I'm married, but I just want to do a trip alone. I'm terrified because my mom is terrified. You catch it? So see the insecurity. It doesn't always have to be aesthetic, and lean into it.
That's good. That's real good.
I would say that it's okay to be your full self. I think as Black women, we kind of hide parts of ourselves, and especially professionally, we hide ourselves. And I found that in moments I've been quiet or not wanted to say something because I don't want to be seen as the Black woman who is telling people what it is or whatever. But I think it's okay. It's okay. If you need to say something, stand up for yourself, say it, and own your truth.
Yes.
Yes. And I would say, just take time to learn yourself or be self-aware. Because I think, again, we were taught how to do makeup and our hair and cook and what you're supposed to do as a wife and what you do in a relationship. But it's like, we're never taught, and I don't know if there's a right way to teach it, but just self-awareness. Like, who are you? What are your temperaments? I love when Landy says, the personality test and all of that. That might even be a start. Because I think when we don't know who we are, we don't know where our strength is. We don't know we don't know what we need to improve on. So I would say to any young girl, just be self-aware, be conscious of like your thoughts and your feelings and why do you feel a certain way towards X, Y, and Z, or someone said something. And I think that is what I would say especially for young girls. It starts at a young age, but even grown women that are not there yet, just that mindfulness and being in tune with why you feel certain ways and I would say learn yourself. And there's I don't have the answer how you do that, but learn yourself.
Thank you so much. Okay, find out connection. You can switch over.
Okay, now is the connection portion.
Okay, so for our connection, we want to make sure that we're able to leave everybody with something that they can take throughout the week with them. So my question to you guys in just a couple of sentences is, what advice would you give women who may feel like they didn't have great examples of womanhood? Like, what's one thing that you can tell them?
Find a good example. Like
a little more.
Like, well, because we are in this digital age and we have social media. If who you grew up with ain't what you was trying to be, you can find someone that looks like what you want to be. So my thing, Google it. Look, I'm the Google it generation. Google it. Look for different examples of whoever it is that you want to be. Find that person. Find more people like that person. Put them up on your wall and be like, this is the goal. And, make some steps up to get there. You can find anything on the internet.
Who's next?
So I will say, and it's pretty much along the lines of what Vondell said. Look around you. There are women, there are Black women all around you that are willing to mentor, that are willing to be that next generation up from you to help you. If you did not have one, does not mean that you don't have one. So just look around, and let's just say that you live on an island by yourself and there is no one around, then you be that trailblazer. You learn yourself and you create that example for those to come behind you. That's what I'll say.
I'll say first, determine, maybe they had women in their life, but determine why maybe those experiences or what you saw just were not good. And then kind of look for the opposite of that. And I think also, when we talk about social media, there's good that can come out of it, especially Facebook. There's so many different women's groups, moms groups, and, just groups of Black women or Black people that you may not connect with everybody, but again, you might find that one person that resonates with you, and kind of just be open. I think you have to actually be open to wanting to meet, those, because sometimes a person can be right in front of you. It's like, I didn't know any of you ladies prior to this conversation, and I felt like, okay, well, I would definitely want to connect with you guys on, whether it's something in your field or, just question or conversing. So I think, sometimes the people are right in front of you, but you have to be open to also meeting and wanting to get to know those women that are examples that you want to be around.
I would say, don't be afraid to ask. A lot of people are afraid to be the one to say something and be like, oh, I need help, or I want to meet someone. And I think if you just take that step and ask, that helps so much.
I would say the most pivotal thing that has ever happened in my life is a woman named Erica, a woman named Yolanda, and then a woman named Eltanya. These are women that I have met in various times of my life, one at 14, one at 21, one at 30. Find your girlfriend group and latch on and be with each other through thick, through thin, through marriage, through divorce, through everything. And try to find women, even if you're a young girl, try to find women who aren't just like you. Oddly enough, my girlfriends, we took the tendency, if anybody knows about that, the tendency book, we took the test, and all of us are one of the tendencies. None of us are all the same. So, iron sharpens iron. Because that's the one thing I see with Black women sometimes, we don't allow each other to sharpen each other's iron. So find them, cling to them, be there for each other.
I would say, don't be so hard on yourself. And don't be so hard on the women in your life. Because as was stated so many times in this conversation, everybody's evolving. We're only acting out what we've been taught. And so if you didn't grow up with someone who you felt like was a good influence on you, or showed you womanhood, number one, don't think that you're this damaged person, and don't be too hard on yourself. Know that it's never too late. The person that you want to become, as long as God gives you breath in your body, you can become that person. And just like everybody else on this in this conversation has said, take some time and really look at the women around you and see if there's somebody that you really like, that you'd like to emulate, and ask for mentorship, or ask to pick their brain about certain things, and see if a relationship forms from there.
Did everybody go?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So now I get to be promotion person. All right. So let's see here. Where's my cue cards? There we go. Every Friday night we do Bible study at 7 p.m. Right now I think we're doing an adulting series. It's really great. You should definitely come check it out. On Saturday mornings we have Sabbath school for adult-ish people at 10:30 a.m. And every Saturday at 4:30 we're here at F.L.O.W Presents, and we do all sorts of great stuff. We also have Sunday dinners every so often. We had one last Sunday. That was absolutely fabulous. And I don't know when the next one is, but I'm sure that when it's coming up, I'll be able to let you guys know.
It's every third Sunday.
There we go. Someone knows better than me. Every third Sunday. So correct me if I'm wrong. Next Saturday, we're not going to be here. We're not going to be here next Saturday, but when we come back, we have a whole new series that we're doing where we're highlighting artists of all kinds, spoken word, singers, visual artists, all those artsy folks that I feel don't get enough recognition and stuff like, and you know, just in general. So we're doing that. Make sure you come back and join us in 2 weeks for that. Ladies, thank you a million for joining us for this discussion and for, you know, being transparent and you're putting your opinions and all that good stuff. I thank you 110%, and F.L.O.W thanks you. And yeah, we'll see you guys, you know, in 2 weeks. Thanks for watching.